What's going on, everybody? My fellow anglers, how y'all doing out there? Happy Thursday. Welcome back to Submission Fishing Live Podcast. Glad you could join us. Big Water Outdoors. What's going on, Aaron? First, ooh, Spotty Guy. Let's go. What's up, man? Driftwood Fishing 760. What's going on? Semi Prem. Oos. Lalo Fish. What's up, man? Jeremy. What's going on, dude? Good to see you guys. Hopefully, y'all doing well. Spotty Bowl. What's up? Got the Instagram guys. One cool tuna. What's up, man? Jeff, how you doing? Hopefully, everybody's good. So, what's new in the fishing world? I've been back. Well, it's already been a week, man. Crazy how fast the time goes. No trespassing. We love the jobs, bro. What's going on, guys? Can't type. That's all good. Oos, close enough. We'll take it. If you guys are new to the show, people typing oos just basically means they're saying what's up and they've hit that like button. So if you guys hit the like button, help us out. And yeah, we'll go ahead and get started here. We got some interesting stories to go over. Obviously, you know the headline about the largemouth bass in Florida. We'll go over that one. Obviously, kind of an interesting story that I've got some questions about. We'll take a look at it. But we've got other news going on. You know, ICAST stuff like that. So yeah, obviously, if you guys have any topics too, let me know. Be glad to get into those things. Oh, no trash bag says we love the jigs, not the jobs. Okay, I thought maybe the jobs. You know, it's a political season. Thought maybe you were just running a campaign or something. It's all good. Bum fishing says I caught my first body. Great sashimi. Hell yeah, dude. Try it. Um, what do they call it when you boil it? Poached or blanched. I've eaten spotty before. It was okay. It was okay. Carter, what's going on, man? Sponsor me. You know the drill. We've talked about this. If you guys want to get sponsorships, you know, a lot of people ask me that. It's Someone get asked a lot. Basically, I know somebody was asking like how many subscribers do I need to be sponsored? It's really nothing like that. It's just you just post stuff. I mean that's really all there is to it, you know. Tag me and stuff and eventually I'll see it, you know, and hand stuff out. So if you guys, you know, we do like we don't have too many people. We've got like our pro staff guys, and then there's very few people that I sponsor outright, but typically just you guys put out the content. That's what's most important to me is just getting the exposure and people seeing the stuff. So you don't even really have to have, you know, thousands of followers. It's just you got to tag me and stuff, put out the content because I'll share it. It helps you too because then, you know, all my followers and people that are into the submission jigs will see your stuff. So it's like mutually beneficial. But that's really all you got to do. Just, you know, fish a lot. And that's the thing too. That's the hardest part. You got to go out there and fish. You know, it seems easy, but making content's not an easy job. Uh, you know, stopping, taking time, take pictures of your fish, posting it. You know, having a plan. It's uh, not as easy as everybody thinks it is until people try to do it. You know, and then you realize how much work it is. No trespassing says spotty sashimi. That's different. Yeah, dude, could you imagine that? We gotta get that, you know what, that video, that's probably a million view video though, if somebody was willing to do it. It's pretty gnarly. I've told that story many times. I had one cooked here. I caught a legal one time and it was like it was gut hooked pretty bad. I got the hook out and like I tossed it back and then it was like 5 minutes later I'm fishing, you know, and I heard it like swam away, but then it like popped back up and it was like belly up. So I just took it home, made it for my wife. Me and my wife ate it, and it was fine. It wasn't like people act like it's the worst tasting fish in the world. I think the worst part about it is being in the bay, right? I think those are the bigger concerns about toxins and contaminations. But taste wise, like it was fine. Listen, if you were dying, I'd be eating spotty all day. It wasn't like the best. That's the thing. It's not like worth going out and catching and eating. It's not like some delicacy fish, but it was like I've had worse. I think mackerel's worse. The Sumaros are bit though. I don't want to tell everyone. See, that's the paradox. It's like you want to keep them for your secret bait. I want as many people to hear about him as possible, but it doesn't matter. Everybody already knows about it. Most people that fish, they know. I mean, OC Fishing Slayer just did a reel on the sumos, and it just got 200,000 views. So it's like, trust me, man, it's the secret's out. They've been out for a while, man. Uh, as long as the spot, they just blur out the spot. I think the spot is more important than the actual bait. You guys know that. Like, you could have the best bait in the world, but if there ain't no fish there or you're in a bad spot, it doesn't matter what you're throwing. You guys on Instagram, if you want to find us, we're on YouTube, by the way. A lot of times I'll sign off here and then just go hit the YouTube thing. Big Water Outdoor says, gonna go fish Saturday, gonna hit the bridge. Which bridge? Coronado? Real fast. Where did you get the picture of the halibut behind you? That's what's that guy's name? Abachar. Uh what is it, like Amadeo Buchar, I think. He's a pretty well-known artist in California. He does like all the art for, I think you see it in like the California booklet, like the fish and wildlife stuff. And he's always at, I think I just bought this one online, to be honest with you. I don't know if it was on sale or a limited print. Um I feel like I got a good deal on it, like at a hat and stuff like that. But he's always at he's in the same hall as us the last couple years for the PCS show. I know you can get his art there. You can get it online. I've seen if there's a website, but just look up Abachar. I'm sure he's on Instagram and stuff too. You can get his art, and he's got all kinds of stuff, like pretty much every like Southern California fish, and like kelp bed drawings and paintings and stuff. It's pretty awesome. It's really good work. TB Metal Art. Speaking of TB Metal Art, I've got his art right here. Now we got, see, we're representing, bringing all the fishing artists in the house. How's it going, Todd? Hope everything's well. Jeremy says, I haven't been out in a few weeks. Did get a kayak, Old Town, Big Water, PDL 132. That's awesome, man. Those are pretty good kayaks. I've never been on one, but a lot of people be fishing on those. Should be pretty good. Driftwood Fishing says, side me up for the spotty sashimi. Yeah. I have a theory about the spotties that, like, whenever you talk about eating a spotty, everybody like trips out and get grossed out. I honestly think people do that just for like the sporting aspect. I think people just don't want people catching spotties because they're so sporty. That being said, I don't think there's any reason to catch them because they're not that good. They're not that terrible, but I think there's like this conspiracy. Whenever you bring up spotty, everybody's like, "Oh, they're terrible." I think just so everybody throws them back, trying to protect their like fishery. Same thing with like calicos. I mean, calicos are delicious. Have you ever had calico? Sand bass are good too, but everybody's like, there's people get really pissed off if you keep calicos. But I mean, I've eaten plenty of calicos. Got no problem with it. Legal ones, of course. I mean, I'd probably throw 90% back, but if I'm running out of fish and I'm in La Jolla and I catch some decent sized calicos, all day. All day. Captain Dan checking in from, how do you say that? Wahoo Washington, for the NBC Motocross Saturday. Off after. So some paddy hopping is in order with the boat. That's awesome, man. Paddy hopping's fun. That's definitely something I miss. Out here in Florida, we don't really have that. They've got like a type of seagrass. It's called like the sargassum or something like that, which kind of floats around. We have seen, me and Kevin been out. We've seen some like decent size. They sort of form patties, but it's not really the same thing because there's no kelp beds here. It's too hot. Water's way too hot. There's no such thing as a kelp forest in Florida. I mean, that's definitely unique to the Pacific out there, which is pretty cool. How every fishery is like so different. But you guys out there on the West Coast, I mean, really take advantage of that. So diverse, all the sheephead and calicos. The good thing about the kelp is just like you can go find it and then fish it. Chances are there's going to be some fish in there. It's pretty good. Semi Prom says, I love teaching people to catch them on the jigs. Yeah. Jig fishing is so fun. I started I kind of started this whole thing. I started with a YouTube channel, and before I even made jigs, I was just my whole thing was my very first video was on YouTube was like teaching people. This was like years ago, teaching people how to fish like the slow pitch jigs and stuff. And we were using like the major craft jigs, and we were which aren't even like real slow pitch jigs, is like casting jigs. But we were like making them work and stuff like that. But we were like modifying them, taking off the trebles, and then it was sometime later, like I decided, look, we can't even find this stuff, so that's why I started making the jigs so we could. We just couldn't find what we wanted out there. It was kind of a new way of spotty fishing, but I started the whole channel not even as like a product company, but it was like just I was trying to spread the word about like slow pitch jigging with the micro stuff in bays and stuff like that, and it just kind of took off from there. So I'm the same way, I just like I wanted to share the slow pitch stoke. It's like slow pitch everything. That kind of became our theme. And now I use it for everything. I try to it's like my challenge. I try to catch every fish I can. And so far it's been pretty good. Spotty guy said, "Can we get a stellar shad color in the 20-gram mercenaries?" Yeah, I can definitely look at it. I'm trying not to get like too many colors though. Then the inventory gets like out of control. But I mean, if there's a big enough demand, yeah, we'll make it. The Shifty God, what's going on, man? Welcome to the show. What size jig should I use for spotties in the harbor around docks? Anywhere from 10 gram to 20 gram. Really, it depends. 20 gram was like our baseline that we started with, and we pretty much use that for everything. The most popular size is the 15 gram, is that most people tend to um, use, and then there's the 10-gram as well. But I would say anything between like the 10 and 20. It depends on how deep the dock is, and then how much kind of current you have too. If you're over 30 feet in a deeper dock, I'd probably consider a 20-gram. Um, and then you can go lower if the current and the tide's not too big. Like if you're throwing the jig and it's just taking off, you want to up the size. But um, if it's deep per se and there's not much current movement, you could throw a 10-gram if you wanted to. But pretty much anywhere. 15 seems to be the sweet spot for everybody. So that's what I'll recommend. But I would definitely get some 10s, 15s, 20s. It's kind of the go-to. Sammy says I'll be fishing Mission Bay before Spotty Bowl Awards. Oh, that's awesome. Oh yeah, I forgot the Spotty Bowl Awards are coming up. Stephen Gage, oos, welcome to the show. Yeah, Sammy says 15-gram is great. He says, I know who Avatar is. I didn't know that was one of his. Yeah, that's one of his. Definitely. One cool tuna. What's going on, man? Jeff, welcome to the show. Glad you could join us. Big Water says the same reason people don't like eating largemouth. Yeah, yeah, like everybody. What's funny is interesting. The whole largemouth bass thing is like, and we have a largemouth story. Maybe we'll get into that right after this. But it's gonna become a divisive thing because right, people used to eat in coal and kill the largemouth, and then it became a sport. And there was a guy. I don't know his name. I don't do that much freshwater fishing, but it like catch and release became really popular, and then it became the hip thing, and now it still is. Like catch and release for largemouth bass is like nobody keeps largemouth bass anymore, right? And if you try to eat one, everybody acts like right. It's become this taboo. People used to eat them all the time. Everybody used to eat largemouth bass, but it became a sporting thing. Like, hey, let's preserve the fishery. Let's throw them back so somebody else can catch it and all that. Um, I mean, which is good. I don't know if there was ever like a problem with the fishery. It's kind of before my time, but I know there's lots of like arguments about it now. Like a lot of people will argue that not killing the bass is a problem now because they like destroy the ecosystem, and it's like a couple big bass uh, take over, and then they eat all the small bass, and they kind of eat everything else around. And some people are saying it's problematic in that it's an issue. And so some people are saying we should actually be killing more largemouth bass and stuff like that instead of just throwing them back because it kind of leaves them unchecked, and it's not always a good thing. So there's arguments, both ways, but yeah, I can definitely see that, when you unregulate stuff, um, it becomes a problem. It's like out here in Florida, I just read an article about like sharks are protected out here now, and I don't think they always were, but sharks are such a problem in Florida. It's like it's ridiculous. And one of the issues they have is all these sharks are protected, but they eat all the fish. So, and I just read this article from this captain was saying, "Look, you guys are trying to preserve the fishery, right? But if you can keep 5 fish, but you catch 20 of them and 15 of them are being eaten by sharks, just bringing them up, and finally you get one up because it's small enough, you can get it up fast enough, and then you keep your 5, but you've literally lost 15 fish. Even though you kept the 5, 20 fish were killed because the sharks have just destroyed them. Same thing with, like, the snapper. You get 1 day for snapper season this year, which just already passed. It was the last weekend. Um, and I've descended snapper before, huge snapper, huge, just beautiful monster snappers. Send them down on the descending device, they get destroyed by sharks. I mean, 1 in, like, 5 maybe you can get down, but it's like, okay, it's just such a waste, man. And so instead of eating it and feeding a family or having the snapper, it's like, no, they'd rather just have sharks eat it. But there's the problem is because sharks are out of control now. It's like, okay, there was maybe shark hunting, and then it's like you protect it, but I think it's just a mistake. It's just my opinion. I think it's a mistake to take the human element out of fishing. It's like they'll be like, "Oh, you just can't touch them anyways." Well, when you take that out, there's always repercussions for it. And out here in Florida, it's a huge problem. From the Gulf to the Atlantic, it just sucks. Sharks eat so many of your fish, uh, and I never thought about that. And they were saying like, "Oh, that's one of the reasons why we only got the 1 snapper is because so many get lost when you're just sending them or catching them." It's like, well, yeah, you guys are idiots. So you're lowering the catch rate because you know they're getting eaten and stuff. It's like it's these the sandbar sharks are just like out of control, man. Just give us a day or 2. Maybe have tags. There's responsible ways to do it. You can tag fish. You can give people uh, or tag sharks. Like they give you a tag where you can hunt them and stuff like that. I mean, it definitely would take care of it. I mean, I've been calling for that's what they need to do with sea lions. I mean, luckily you got the killer whales out there now handling business, but even in Southern California, you guys know the sea lions are a problem. They're not nearly as bad as the sharks, but don't tell me sea lions left unchecked aren't out there tearing up the kelp, eating all the fish. You have these protected MPAs, and you do nothing about the sea lions. Well, what do you think they eat? They're going to go down to these areas in these kelp beds and basically just eat everything. All the sheephead, all the calicos. It's just crazy to protect something that's not even endangered, especially the sea lions in California. It's like they're of least concern. They're not even close to being endangered. There's no problem. There's no threat that they're going to die off. You're like, it's like protecting rats in your house. You'd be like, you know what? You can't kill rats anymore. It's just people thought their sea lions are cute and whatever. And it just becomes a problem. I mean, they've already taken over beaches and property, um, that the public used to use. It'd be one thing if you could like make the case that they were endangered and you got to protect them, but that never even was the case. It's not even like, oh, we've got to save them from the brink. Someone was just like, oh, these things are cute. We got to protect them. It's crazy. But you see the problems. And in Florida, it's a big problem. By protecting the sharks like they do, you're destroying the fishery just on how many fish you actually lose. And you guys come out here and join me for fishing. You'll see how often we get sharks. It's pretty annoying sometimes, to be honest with you. I don't know how we got off on that topic, but we did it. The night bite is great for the biggins. Yeah, I never really fished at night too much, but I know for like calicos, like at the wall over there in Long Beach, dude, those dudes fish at night. That seems to be money for sure. Those guys get hammered. At least the size I've seen, those dudes catching at night, it's pretty wild. I mean, I fish at night here. I shouldn't say that. I fish at night in my backyard all the time. I got like these lights out, but um, mostly speckled trout, but they're pretty good size. It's like hit or miss. Oh, the Shifty God said, yeah, I've noticed people catch fish at night. What's your take on night fishing? Yeah, night fishing's good. I'm not a night owl. I'm a morning person for sure. But I mean, I fish bluefin in the middle of the night. I have gone night fishing. and it's pretty good. People swear by it. I mean, you can still catch big fish during the day, but the one thing about night is it's usually thinner. There's less pressure, less traffic, so you don't have to worry about as many people. Sometimes you go fish on a weekend or like during the day. Some of these tournaments, like you run into a tournament day and there's 50 kayaks in the water and people just everywhere. Night's like a lot more thin. So there's that advantage to it too. It's a lot more peaceful. You're kind of just left alone. You can do your thing. Um, so if you can stay up and if that's your jam, I mean, it's definitely worth it. Pilot P Productions, what's going on, man? Haven't tuned in for a long time. While you moved to Florida, yeah. When did I move out here? October. Not quite a year, but yeah, October. I had a house out here. We had like a vacation home out here for a couple years in St. Augustine, so we'd come back out and like travel. But yeah, we just made the move last October. Getting close, already close to a year almost. Crazy. They sank my buddy's boat. Who did? The sea lions or the killer whales? Sammy said, "Yeah, I've had so many sea dogs steal my catch." It's true. I had a I had a sea lion. I learned this the hard way. Like a couple years ago, I caught a legal halibut and I had it on one of the game clips because I didn't have like a cool bag. It was just hanging over the side of my kayak. Oh, dude, one of them just and I had it on there for a while too, and I knew to like watch out for sea lions, but um, it was just chilling there, and I was like actually heading in, and one of them swam up and just I heard this pop, and I looked down and they took it, and they were just tossing it around. I've never had a sea lion actually eat like a spotted baby bass. What was interesting too is like I like fishing the bait bars a lot. I like the like monster sea bass out there, and there's sea lions everywhere. And I've never had a sea lion eat a sand bass out there. I don't know if they don't eat sand bass or what, but I mean there's like I've seen lions diving like back and forth right by my kayak, and I catch sand bass and they don't even bother it, which is crazy. I don't know what that's all about. It's nuts. Let's see. All right, let's get on with it. Let's take a look at our we got some other news stories, but let's talk about our kind of our main story right now on the topic. Don't want to clickbait you guys too much. Clickbait for the YouTube. Let's see here. So talking about largemouth bass, culling the bass and everything else, but goodbye to largemouth bass in Florida. They have a new name, so they're renaming the largemouth bass in Florida to the Florida bass. Now, what's interesting is they said so I've got some questions. So the Florida bass now, they're saying that the largemouth bass in Florida is a different species than the largemouth bass that they've been finding in the rest of the country. Apparently they did some tests and then that the Florida bass is completely different. So, Florida's most popular freshwater game fish is getting a new name. The largemouth bass, a coveted catch for anglers across Florida's rivers, lakes, will now be known as the Florida bass. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission announced Wednesday the name change comes on the heels of a recent study by Yale University researchers that used genetic analysis to determine the Florida bass is its own distinct species. Their analysis dramatically revealed that the scientific names have been incorrectly applied to the largemouth bass and the Florida bass over the past 75 years. Researchers wrote in the report, which was published in the peer-reviewed journal Scientific Reports, the study also determined that Florida bass are more spread than previously thought, with their reach ranging from Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. The American Fishery Society, founded in 1870 to improve fisheries, conservation, and aquatic science, now considers the Florida bass as a separate species than the largemouth bass, according to Florida wildlife experts. The scientific nomenclature previously used to describe the largemouth bass, I don't know how to say this, Micro Microturus salmatis, will now be used for the Florida bass species, according to research. Largemouth bass will now be considered, again, I'm not sure, Micropterus nigricans. That's the best I got. For anglers, the name change is purely linguistic. Florida fisheries. So here's the weird thing: Florida fishery managers say the new name won't come with an updated regulations for either species. That makes sense. But states will now refer to Florida bass and regulations and other messaging. Excluding Florida's Western Panhandle, largemouth bass will now be referred to as the Florida bass in booklets, signage, news releases, according to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission. And no, this was the part that I thought was weird. There's no need for anglers to distinguish between the two species for regulation purposes, um, basically because there is no difference. Right here, the angler won't be able to tell the difference between a Florida bass and the largemouth bass, anyways. The two fish species visually look the same and are indistinguishable to the naked eye. The only way to tell the difference is to run genetic testing, according to state biologists. Florida legislature in 1975 named the largemouth bass the official state freshwater fish. According to Florida Department of State, a state record catch is more than 17 pounds, though several larger fish have been caught but not certified. Um, yeah, so no more largemouth bass in Florida, I guess. They're saying it's a thing. So, but here's what doesn't make sense. They're like, you can't tell the difference, right? Like when you look at it, they said there's no indistinguishable difference, and the only way to know is the genetic testing. But then they're also saying that it's a completely different fish. They even gave it a different what's the genome, like what do they call that? That subspecies, like a different phylum. So, but here's a question I have to ask. Does that mean all like world record or fish that are like caught in Florida don't count as largemouth bass catches if they're a completely different species? It didn't say anything about that. Like I saw one story, it's like the longest, not the heaviest, but like the longest bass was caught in Florida or something like that. It was like, I don't even know, 22 inches or something like that. Again, I'm not a freshwater fisherman. It wasn't the heaviest, but it was like the longest caught in like some lake. But it's like, is that invalidated now because the Florida bass is a different bass? Which is crazy because now they're not calling it a largemouth bass anymore. They're going to refer to it as the Florida bass. I'm not really a freshwater guy. This doesn't affect me too much. I don't think it really affects anybody. They're not changing anything regulations wise, just the name. But does that come with a whole nother set of regulations and records and stuff like that? And are all the old records invalidated if this is indeed like a totally different fish? I just thought it was interesting because none of that was mentioned. Or you're like, oh, well, you didn't catch the largest largemouth bass. You caught the largest Florida bass. I think it's open for debate. I haven't seen anything address that so far, but if indeed genetically it's a completely different fish, I mean, does it not? I mean, what happens with tournaments? Are like tournaments different now? I don't, I don't know. I just thought that was really interesting. Yeah, it's like who decided that to like look for that? Really weird. So yeah, the largemouth bass, so long. Not in Florida. I don't know. Do largemouth bass still exist in Florida? They're kind of saying like all the largemouth are Florida bass, which is different. So maybe traditional largemouth bass don't exist, but they said in the panhandle they're not changing it. So I don't know if it's still traditional largemouth bass there. I don't know. I just thought it was a super interesting story. And I think it's gonna cause some debate down the line. What do you guys think? Yeah, one cool tool says a new IGF record. Right. I don't know. You would think so if it's a different species, but I think the problem is they said you can't. They said it's indistinguishable. So the people, the Fish and Game or whatever, says you cannot tell from looking at it the difference between a largemouth bass and a Florida bass. So I guess it would be the same fish because what do you do? Catch one and then have to have it sent to some genetics lab to see which fish it is? I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, what's different about it? They look the same. They can't tell them apart. They're like, you can't even tell, but it's different. I think it's just going to cause more problems. So weird. Yeah, it looks like a largemouth bass, smells like a largemouth bass, tastes like a large. Yeah, 100%. Nobody knew, right? They've been fishing these things for the history, like history of Florida. Nobody said anything about it. Everybody just assumed it's a largemouth bass. They're like, "Oh, you can't tell it apart." I don't know. Interesting. But when you come to Florida, so everything will be updated to say Florida bass. So you can be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go largemouth bass fishing in Florida." Be like, "No, you're gonna go Florida bass fishing." So weird. Glenn goes fishy, trying to figure out the follow the money or the reason why the distinction. Yeah, like, or why even? I wonder if somebody was looking for a distinction, or did they just test it and stumble upon, like, oh, this thing's different. I don't know. It is really weird. You're probably right. Like somebody's gonna like trademark Florida bass or like I don't know. Florida's gonna try to sell the bass to other places. So weird. Right? Couldn't you just be like, oh, the largemouth bass in Florida is slightly different, but it's still a largemouth bass? I guess not. Big Water says, from what I heard when this first broke, is there will be new records for Florida bass, but all standing largemouth bass records will stand. So if you catch a largemouth in Florida, see, but here's the thing, which is weird. So if you catch a largemouth bass in Florida, it basically then wouldn't be eligible for any world record because it would be a different bass, right? So then Florida bass fishery just has its own set of rules. So you can't even compete for like largemouth records anymore in Florida because the fish doesn't exist. Weird. It's really weird. Yeah, it's kind of strange. I'm gonna have to look in. I have to get like some freshwater expert in here. Like I said, I don't know. I know the bass world is huge. Like I've never I'll be honest with you, I've never been freshwater bass fishing my life. I'm like a saltwater guy, but bass fishing throughout the country is like probably the biggest fishing sport. I mean, it dwarfs saltwater fishing, to be honest with you. And I know a lot of people have actually caught largemouth bass on the jigs, and we've been trying to make a push in the freshwater. So um, I know it's definitely a big thing. But I'm curious. I have to get somebody with like a lot more. I need to get like a bass fisherman in here and see what they say. Like a tournament bass fisherman from like maybe like both sides, get a little more perspective on it. Because to me, it's kind of funny, but I don't know. I'm ignorant to the ramifications and stuff like that. Glenn Goes Fishing says it may seem trivial, but the name change is an important step to preserving fish populations in Florida, according to state wildlife experts. Interesting. So that must be the angle. Huh. Maybe that's the money of federal preservation. Oh, interesting. Like, hey, we've got this unique fish that's only found in Florida. We need to preserve it. You could be right, dude. That actually kind of makes sense, right? Because now you've got this unique bass that is only local to your area. It's so weird, crazy. Pilot Pete Production says, I used to fish freshwater bass tournaments, and it has been longstanding angler classification on the bass strains. We always referred to certain fish caught as the Florida strain. Oh, interesting. So there has been like a difference with it. Okay. That's interesting. That's good to know. The Florida strain were known for being more aggressive, larger girth, larger in general than the northern strain here in California. Okay. So there's kind of been like a what would you call that? It's kind of been like an unwritten difference between the fish. That's good to know. That's actually some really good insight. I had no idea about that. Yeah, it's a quote from the article. Yeah, the one you said earlier. There will be an all new set of IGA records for the Florida bass. Oh yeah, that's what you were saying earlier. Texas and Tennessee to beat those records. Martell Parks, what's with the title? Man, you just missed it. Basically, uh, they found out that the largemouth bass in Florida is a different species than the largemouth bass basically everywhere else, and that it's unique to Florida, and that they're renaming it from the largemouth bass to the Florida bass. So we were just debating, what do you do if it's a different species? They say it looks the same and everything like that, but it's a completely different species apparently. So that's what we were getting into. So likely, if you're fishing in Florida, you won't be fishing for largemouth bass anymore. You'll be fishing for Florida bass. That's the TLDR of it. Yeah, crazy, kind of crazy. And then, yeah, we had some other crazy stories. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but this one was in. Let me share my screen here. This one was in Mexico. So for all the California guys out there, this one kind of hits close to home. But there was a gunman killed a Mexican fisheries leader who complained of drug cartel extortion of illegal fishing. This was some woman that was killed. It was a Mexican fishing industry leader complained of drug cartel extortion and illegal fishing. Was shot to death in the northern border state of Baja California. Authorities said Tuesday. Unidentified gunman killed Minerva Perez, the head of the state fishing industry chamber, in what was state prosecutor Maria Elena Andrade described the district assassination attack that riddled the victim with several gunshot wounds. The killing Monday in the port city of Ensenada came just after Perez complained of the widespread competition from illegal fishing. But the previous months, Perez had also complained that drug cartels are extorting protection payments from fishing boats, distributors, truck drivers, and even restaurants. She said that they were investigating all the issues related to whether this was linked to the conflict involving fishing. Yeah, so I mean that's crazy. And I think this lady was fairly new to the position, but you guys know down in let me sign off on Instagram here. I mean, you guys know, most of you guys are in Southern California. I mean, there's been problems down in Mexico, like lots of the islands are getting shut down and places you can't fish anymore. And it's become real political. I mean, the sad part is in Mexico is so corrupt, and just a reminder how that stuff happens. This chick was assassinated just for speaking out. I mean, speaking of assassinations is crazy. I mean, we're already unfortunately dealing with that in our country, just from differing opinions. And hers is basically just over fishing and just how powerful the cartels are, and how much money the fishery actually brings in Mexico. But they're starting to like crack down. And what's crazy is like when you get rid of this impacts the Americans fishing there, because they shut down islands that you can't go to. I think like Guadalupe was on there. Some of them they kind of are hiding under like environmental issues, but a lot of it is just cartel activity. And this was hurting even inside Mexico. And I think some of her points was, um, when the drug cartel and stuff brings in fish that's unregulated, they don't have to pay. Her whole point was they don't have to pay taxes on it. They don't have to fish within seasons, different size limits. So they were selling to restaurants at like the same price, and the restaurants were selling at the same price. But fishermen that were doing it by the books and following the rules were basically just getting destroyed, because how do you compete? If there's an illegal fishery going on and they are making so much more profit and selling them cheaper. And of course, she spoke out about it and just got shot up. And she was shot, I think, pretty pretty soon after it was further in the story. Maybe I'll put the link in there, but she had given like a talk about it in the government, and then it was like she got in her truck and then they shot her up. So I mean that's crazy. Just show you how bad the corruption is, and how much money is actually in the fishing industry and how political the fishing industry actually is. We're a little more civilized in America, but we argue about it But at least we kind of have still a little more democratic process over it, and it's kind of sad, but it affects the US too. Many boats go down there. Um, and a lot of them, even the US is losing fishery, but you ask like the resorts and the people out there, there's people that used to make um livings off of Americans coming down and fishing down in some of these cities, and a lot of that has been shut down. So you got a lot of these people that make livelihoods counting on American tourism that don't have that anymore. Again, because now the cartels have kind of taken it over, and just a big problem. And it's really sad. So yeah, it's just right there down on the doorstep. So Mexico figures it out, but as long as those, you know, the drugs run rampant there, I mean, they just kind of take over everything. It's just kind of sad, sad story. Yeah, tuna pulls in big money. Yeah, it does. Big time. But not just tuna, man. They got everything down there. Dorado. Even like was crazy because like the Dorado regulations are much more strict in Florida than they are in the US. Like you can only keep, well, at least for us, like you can only keep two. In the US waters, you can keep 10, which is like kind of wild. Some things they don't always regulate. Like I know rockfish are not as regulated over there, but some stuff they do regulate a lot more. This is kind of sad. But yeah, tuna for sure. Even last year, I had a couple stories about uh, there were stings with commercial fishermen here in the US where people were recreational fishermen were um, selling to commercial people. It was same. I mean, the same stuff was kind of happening here. I mean, obviously, it wasn't. I don't think drug related or cartel related, but people were still trying to undercut the system and make money, and were prosecuted for it. Just crazy. The cartel makes money on everything. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we all know. I mean, they pretty much run everything down there. Drugs are a big business. That's crazy. People selling sashimi on the corner. You get that Mexican sashimi baking in the sun. Yeah, man. That is wild. Kind of an unfortunate story, but I know it has, just repercussions down the line for everybody, especially those in like Southern California. Definitely keep an eye on that. Let's see here. Yeah, we had our one day at Snapper. Oh, and then yeah, we've got iCast. I don't know if any of you guys go to that, but iCast is going on right now. That's sort of like pretty much like the biggest fishing trade show. They've got in pretty much the US at this point. We've got like the PCS and kind of those local shows, which I really prefer. iCast is more of like it's kind of like the big $1 billion, $1 million, multi-million dollar industries go. Not too many little guys and stuff. It's mostly big name stuff. You guys know Shimano, Daiwa, big booth. A lot of the big guys playing. Kevin's down there right now from. I think he's working the baits booth. He's been down all week, man. He's been hitting it hard. So I didn't make it down this year. I know what's going on. I think till tomorrow too, but I'm not gonna have time. Jesse Brummett, who's in the chat here sometimes. I think he works for. Is it G Loomis? I think he's out there too. He was texting me, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it down there. But and one of the interesting things with the iCast is they always give away like the best of show awards and stuff like that. What's interesting is so many things that won this year were like electric reels, which I kind of thought was odd. Um, but yeah, like the best of show winner that was a saltwater reel, which was an electric reel, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like it seems like electric reels are getting more and more popular. Like every year, I know they've been around. They've been around for a long time. People have been using them, but it seems like more and more you're starting to see them. Um, and then let me see if I can bring this back up. Sorry, guys. Let me know if you could see that. But yeah, it was the Pen Fathom was the best of show. What's interesting about this electric reel is apparently it's the first one that doesn't require a power source. Like it's got batteries, which is pretty cool. I think that's one of the biggest drawbacks of the electric reels is that you've got to plug them in somewhere, or they've got batteries, but battery packs that are like off of the reel itself. This one has a battery inside the reel, so you basically don't need anything else. I know you can hook it up, I think conventionally with like the negative and positive, and either put it to a main battery or like a backup battery system. But yeah, Penn's first Fathom electric reel. It's the only integrated battery providing anglers with incredible torque and power. So that's interesting. I think as we're people are starting to fish deep, and bottom fishing is becoming so much more popular, especially like slow pitch jigging. You're starting to see this more, and also in California when they open up the rock fishery, you can pretty much fish as deep as you want these days, or within season. There are regulations, but yeah, if you guys have ever thrown like once you kind of get past like 600 feet, it gets it's really hard and tiresome to fish. But there's still some good big fish, that are deep past there. I know in like Florida too. Once you go off the shelf, tile fish are like one of the big catches out here, and sometimes those things are I think between like 5 and 1,000 feet, and I, people are just I think getting into the bottom fishing more and going in the electric reels. But yeah, it's just pretty crazy. And it looks like the just the advancement is in batteries, like the lithium batteries. I know, like if you guys, all you blue collar guys out there like me, Milwaukee Tools, DeWalt, and all that. You guys can see the advancements. I know electric cars and everything's been putting a lot of, I think, advancements in batteries, and it's just crazy seeing what they're able to squeeze out of these lithium batteries. Um, and they looks like they sold a charger too. It's like a little battery charger that you put in there, but so that's cool. Kind of a wireless and wireless tools. Now we got wireless electric reels. So that'll be interesting to see how they turn out. And then the saltwater, that was the saltwater reel. And then the saltwater rod winner was also an electric power thing. It was the E rod. So again, a jigging and bottom rod with integrated power supply. So this is a rod that has batteries built into it. So this is what's interesting is that they gave both the awards. This is the same thing. It's solving the problem of taking the battery pack out. And this one is kind of like a universal rod. It's my understanding that you could take like the Seaborg or some of the other traditional electric reels and just connect them to the rod itself now. So you have the reel that's standalone with the battery, and now this is a rod that has batteries inside of it that eliminate the battery pack. So now it's really the same concept, but you either have it in the reel, or if you've got an old reel, now you can buy a rod apparently that has lithium ion batteries inside the rod. And this was the best of show for the saltwater rod stuff. And this is Dominion E-Rod jigging and bottom rods combine the latest in jigging battery technology to create an all-in-one fishing platform for microelectric reels. Yeah, crazy. Product's capable of over 30,000 feet of line retrieval in one charge. No more hassle with external wires. So that's crazy. So now we got rods with batteries and reels with batteries. Guess everything's got batteries. It's kind of a niche product, though. I mean, I don't know too many people that have electric reels, but we used one when we went fishing. Last year we were doing that deep rock fishing, or the year before when they like opened up those regulations. And me and Kevin used it when we were like when we had to descend fish that was like really deep, or if we were checking spots that were like 1,300 feet deep, we did bust out the electric reel. But even like 750, 800 feet, nah, we cranked old school. We did it like men. But yeah, it does get tiring. I think once you get over it though, it wasn't that bad. I mean, we spent all day, like 10-hour days, just reeling up 700 feet at a time. You get used to it. I think it depends on your dedication level. Because I've been on trips to the time I went on a jigging trip, was it like San Nicolas Island, to the islands up there in the north, and we were fishing for rockfish like 500 feet deep. There was legit some dudes that dropped like half dozen times, and they were done. They were like, "Oh, I'm done. I'm so tired." Like, it wasn't that bad. And there was a couple guys that had electric reels, and everybody was clowning on them, and then halfway through the trip, everyone's like, "Yeah, these dudes, they know what's up." They were the ones still fishing. I was still cranking away. I don't give a damn. I mean, I was probably beat for days, but it's not that bad. It's just rockfish. You can take your time. It's not like speed jigging for tuna, where you have to just crank like a madman. Just go slow. You'll get it up. Even two-speed reel kinda helps out a little bit. Takes longer, but takes some of the strain off. Benji, Tom Cotton Moreno, Oos, what's going on, everyone? Sammy says, "Yeah, reeling 4 to 500 feet is no joke." That's true. Or if you get, like, a good reel, like, I use the, Shimano O'Shea jigger, the 4000. I mean, that thing's got, like, I think 42 or 46 inches, something ridiculous line of retrieve on each crank, and it's got that continuous drive. That thing just, like, vacuums up fish, and it's very easy. But if you get, like, a if you have, like, a low, retrieve reel, you can definitely feel it for sure. If you got something that's only doing, like, 28 inches or 30 something inches, it makes a huge difference. Because we were doing that with, like, some slower, speed reels, and it was taking forever. Then we got the O'Shea jigger, and it was, like, it was so much better, like, how much quicker you were getting the fish up. So, getting, like, a good jigging reel that's got a good retrieval speed definitely takes a lot of sting out of those 4 or 500 drops. Griffo Fishy says, "I love the Milwaukee fuel with the GPS on them." See, I didn't even know they had GPS. Dude, I've got, like, Milwaukee stuff, but it's, like it's so old. It's, like, probably 7 years old at this point, but it still works, so I still keep it. Most of the batteries work too. One cool tuna, E-jigs, yeah, that'll probably be next. Well, they had that one years ago that I never really saw. Remember, it was, like, that bait that was swimming around and stuff like that. Proxer93, what's going on, man? Oos, welcome to the show. Glad you could join us. Yeah, so speaking of deep sea fishing, you guys, we got remember submission at sea is coming up. If you guys want to fish with me, um, I'll be back in California. We're gonna do some jigging. We're gonna do a 2-day trip. You go to the website and we're running out. We're getting close to months. We still got quite a few tickets, so get on that, guys, if you want to join. Uh, because we got a deadline where we have the deposit. And I was talking with Hale, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I should cancel. We've sold, a handful of tickets, but we still got a lot to go on. I know it's October, but definitely get on that. So if you guys want to learn how to jig or you want to fish with me, check that out. We're going to go on the Voyager. It's going to be a 2-day trip. Really, we're going to be out like 3 nights, I think. And we're going to look for bluefin tuna at night. And then we're going to go hit some of these rockfish grounds that are open way west. So we're going to go out there, stuff that hasn't been fished before. I've already talked to him, so we're going to look for some of these spots, especially if the patties are around too. Price is $875. It's 2 days, and meals are included. Give you guys jigs. We have raffles. We'll probably do like a custom hat or shirt, like we always do. And yeah, it's be a fun trip. So if you guys want to learn jigging too, if you guys are new, want to come fish, I'll be on the trip. So showing you guys and working with you. I'd rather see you guys get bits. So if you want to slow pitch jig and just fish with a lot of cool dudes. Some of you guys have already signed up, but yeah, definitely check that out. So you go to the smishfishing.com, check out the submission at sea page, and you can pick your bunk from there. So that's an opportunity too if you can get in a little earlier. And it's October 24th, 25th, 23rd. We leave the 23rd. So we leave the 23rd. So it's the 23rd, 24th, and I think we get back on the 25th. So a couple days at sea, but I think it'll be a good time. So definitely get on that, guys. You could pay half now. You don't have to pay it all. You can do a deposit, and then you can pay the other half, as we get closer. So let's do it. Let's go fish. Come join me. I'll be back, and I'm not going to be in California that often. So let's go get after it. Let's see if I got anything else on the agenda. Yeah, I think that was it. I mean, unless you guys got any more questions, we got the extinction of the largemouth bass in Florida, submission at sea, a bunch of crazy stuff. Spotty bulls rolling up, and that was a super fun thing. Oh yeah, the what the Blue Collar Classic, is that what you guys are calling it? There's Driftwood Fishing's putting on the they've got another tournament. So if you guys like spotty fishing, hit him up on Instagram. They've got their flyer. I put it up on my show last time. I don't have it on hand, but it's like a 4 month long tournament. So if you guys are into that, and which is cool, it's kind of a more chill atmosphere. It's not like you have to go out on a day and fish a certain day. I think it's kind of just like a long running thing. Take your time. If you fish, might as well. It's kind of no pressure. It reminds me kind of like the CCA Star tournaments where they do it for a month, and it's like you got a long time to fish. We do these two at our local Salt Strong tournaments. We do a month long tournament, and then you've got time. As long as you're fishing, you might as well do it because you can just measure fish. You don't have to like show up on a certain day to fish. So check that out. I'm going to sponsor for that, and yeah, get in there and get some more tournament fishing in through the app. Yeah, which app was that? I should have been prepared. I did it all on the last show, but I don't have any of my stuff brought up here. What was it, the Carnage app? Is that what it's called? Uncle Tuna says great event. Raffle and cash prizes, the whole tournament. Yeah, that's cool. I'll be sponsoring some of those for sure. Yeah, Fishing Chaos. So you can check out the app, find it on there. Um, yeah, and like Driftwood said, they're gonna be doing raffles and cash prizes the whole tournament. So might as well do it, guys. I mean, check it out. I think it's a good way too if you want to kind of dip your toes into tournament fishing and then maybe go for the spotty bowl or some of these more hardcore things later. Um, yeah, I think it should be fun. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Like always, you can get your jigs. Thank you for all the support. You get it at the local tackle store, submissionfishing.com. I really appreciate you guys. They do buy the jigs to support us. Tag me in all your stuff. I really appreciate it, man. I love being here with you guys, talking fishing for an hour. And yeah, just thank you for everything you guys do. And hopefully I'll see you at Submission at Sea and fish with some of you guys when I come back to California. All right, guys. Until next week. Oos.